Hi, in today's video, I want to talk about 5 ways that you can support the trans person in your life. Maybe it's a family member, a friend, or a coworker who's recently come out and you're wondering how you can best help them. As well, at the end, I'm going to talk about what I think was my biggest mistake during early days of transition and how that impacted my life. If that sounds like something that might be of value to you, stick around. Let's get at it. My name is Kate Madden. I live in Vancouver, BC. I try to make videos that help trans people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and essentially act as a resource that I didn't feel that I had 2.5 years ago when I began my transition. I hope you find value in this video, so please like, subscribe, and share. One of the things that I found to really help trans people early on in their transition, and also one of the things that I've come to learn, is that the most critical period of transition is that time between coming out and going full-time. And for some people, that's one and the same. For others, it could be years. For me, the time I started coming out publicly on a consistent level where I didn't give up, and the time I went full-time was about 10 months. These are some of my reflections during that period as ways that I think could perhaps help you as you work or live or love that trans person in your life. I don't speak for all trans people, but this was some of my experiences. I think one of the things that I found that really helped trans people early on in that transition period is just asking, what are the pronouns that you want to use? What do you want me to call you by? Asking them pronouns, asking them their names, and then being consistent throughout it. If you make a mistake, quickly correct yourself. Don't make a big to-do, don't make a big production out of the apology. Whatever you do, don't say that it's hard on you too. Being misgendered is probably one of the most painful aspects of transitioning genders. You're trying to present this yourself to the world as you truly are, and especially in those early days when you're still trying to figure things out, or maybe you're not quite as confident in your appearance or your presentation, it can be really hard when the world feels like it's turned against you. And so for those people in that first circle, it can mean a lot to that trans person, especially if they're younger, if you're consistently gendering them correctly. Another thing that can really help is if you don't question us, if you don't question that person who's just come out to you. Are you sure? No, are you sure? I know for myself, 2.5 years in, I'm sure. There are a lot of exit ramps as you transition, as you go through the journey, as you jump through the hoops. There are ways to pull off. There are ways to detransition. But for myself, 2.5 years later, I'm chemically castrated. I've had no surgeries, but there's no going back for me. And especially for those of us who are older, you have to consider, how many questions did we ask ourselves to get to this point? How many years were we agonizing over the question of, am I trans? Am I trans enough? Should I transition genders? Can I pass? And even getting to the point of, fuck it. If I can't pass, I just need to be myself and just going for it. Because for us, a lot of the time, it comes down to a question of life or death. And the agony of living in that lie becomes greater than the fear of transitioning into truth. And so I think for the third thing to consider is, we're coming out to you because we trust you, because we love you, because you're a part of our life, and we want you to stay in our life. And so reassure us. Let us know that you're not going anywhere, that you still love us. If there's one thing I've learned, is that yes, it's not just the one person transitioning, it's everybody around them who certainly transitions. But let us know that you'll still be there. It's really hard to define that existential terror that you feel as you're coming out, as you're sitting down with somebody and, hey, there's something I gotta tell you. What I found as I was coming out, and I would try to set up coffee or lunch or dinner or what have you, a phone call, I noticed that people were just relieved that I wasn't dying. And so just the way I was setting it up perhaps was wrong, but I began to preface it, listen, I'm okay. I'm not sick, I'm not dying, nothing's wrong, but there's something I need to tell you. And it was always so freeing and liberating to come out and to finally be myself with that person, whoever they were. And without exception, to encounter support and acceptance, personally and professionally. One of the things that we struggle with, I see it across the board. I see it online, I see it in my friends, I see it in other YouTubers, and that's what forgiving ourselves for living a lie or for hurting those around us. And the Wachowskis in Sense8, the character of Nomi, summed it up a lot, I think, when she says the violence that we do to ourselves is the worst form of violence, or something along those lines. So for a lot of us, we need to go on this journey of forgiveness, of forgiving ourselves. And what I've learned with that, in a lot of different facets of my life, where I feel I've made mistakes or I have regrets, I've learned to stop asking why, because forgiveness doesn't need a why. And so for the fourth reason, I would say don't analyze. There doesn't need to be a why. A lot of us have known this for a long time. Or the other thing I hear for people who didn't know when they were young is that when they do realize it, a lot of their past experiences begin to make sense. And so there doesn't need to be a why. And when a loved one, a friend, a coworker is asking why did this happen? What's causing this? It can put us on the defensive. And for some folks, that might be really difficult, especially if you consider some of us are using hormones for the first time and our brains are finally working correctly. But also, it'll be an emotional roller coaster those first few months. I know it was for me and for the people around me who were closest to me those first 6 months or so. But yeah, it doesn't matter why. And there's nothing that we did to cause this. And for a long time, I used to say, if you could give me a pill to take this away, I would take it. And now that I've come to this place of really loving myself and accepting myself for who I am, I don't need a why anymore. I'm Kate, and I love my life and the people in it. How I got here doesn't matter. I'm here, and I love it. The fifth reason, and this is one that I've kind of bumped into more than a few times, is that our lived experiences get questioned. So, as you're moving through transition, you're learning a lot, and you're seeing a lot. Like you're walking away, as someone who's assigned male at birth, you're walking away from that privilege, and then to just be dismissed when you explain that, no, this is my lived experience. This is what I've experienced actually on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. Like changing gender is really intense, and I think it gives us insight into a lot of things about the world. And when we provide commentary about that, this has been my experience, my opinion is based on this, can be really frustrating to just be dismissed. One of the things that I've really come to experience is that my values shifted. And really, my values shifted because my sense of compassion and empathy really exploded and changed, especially as I began to encounter marginalized people, disenfranchised people, and began to understand my own privilege and how I'd become so accustomed to that without even being aware of it. And so as we begin to articulate that, as we begin to understand that, it's hard to be judged against who we used to be or against those lived experiences that we're sharing with you. Maybe just listen. The biggest mistake I made in transition was telling people that that person that they knew was dead. And what I began to quickly learn was that no, I wasn't dead. I was fully alive in a way that I'd never been before. And really what I was articulating was that internalized transphobia, where I was just terrified and I thought that I needed to invalidate my previous life. So, I wrote an Instagram post a few months ago where I talked about there was an empty grave and I was standing at the grave mourning with everyone else. But I came to the realization there's nobody there because I am alive. And so my biggest mistake was not realizing that I now had more energy to love, to be loved, because I had all of me in relationship now, as opposed to some of me and the rest of me hidden, and the rest of me trying desperately to stay hidden. So I get to live life fully now, and that's amazing. So I hope that this helps understand the freshly hatched trans person in your world. Or if you're a trans person, I hope this helps you live your life more fully. And so thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. And here's to life.